Doctor, look.
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Stand clear.
Welcome back, everybody. Dr. Homebrew here to talk to you about nothing else but homebrew, which is weird. I know. I'm sure you expected an internal, an interior design podcast, but that is not the case. We're talking about beers and homebrew, and with me, as always, are the two Brians from the Council of Brians, Brian Cooper and Brian Shaw. How you guys doing?
Yes, we're here.
Doing awesome.
All right.
What else would we talk about but homebrew?
I don't know, man. I'm ready for it, though. We have a Schwarzbier, which is one of my favorite styles. I really like that beer from our other Brian Mills, who is joining us right now. Little intro, Brian. And then we have a
Brian trifecta.
That's right. And then we have a Saison from Mark that's going to be in the second half of the show. But before we get to all those beers, of course, I want to thank 5 Star Chemicals. You can go to 5starchemicals.com and learn every single solitary way to clean and sanitize, which is really only one way. You PBW and then you Star San, and that's what you do. And 5 Star Chemicals sort of introduced that to us, in my opinion, to the homebrewing world. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but in my mind, in my history, that's exactly 100% correct. And once I started doing those steps of cleaning and then sanitizing with PBW and Star San, my beer improved 20%. Which is not saying a whole lot because it's pretty terrible, but that's not entirely true. But anyway, it did definitely see a marked improvement in how my beer came out, because you got all the valves and you got all the little nooks and crannies and all that kind of stuff. And 5 Star they've developed these chemicals to sort of blast those organic materials out of there, so you don't have to work as hard, and it's good stuff. So check them out, 5starchemicals.com.
Yeah,
just not using bleach, man.
So are they for HomebrewCon? Are they going to do, like, they're doing a vendor thing, right? I mean, the vendors are still going to be an aspect of it. They just give them each their own little time, from what I understand is going on, or
that I don't know. That's a really good question. I have no idea.
I think there's a thing. Exhibitors have a thing for sure, but
okay.
I'm looking forward to seeing how they're going to do that, because it's fun going around and talking to everybody and visiting all the different things there.
That's sort of the thing to do, man. Yeah. It's that's the social aspect of HomebrewCon that I enjoy, is like going and seeing all the booths and going talking to the vendors and stuff like that. It's not meeting in the hallways or smelling everybody's farts in the elevators. That's not necessarily what I'm all about. But doing the vendors in the showroom floor is fun, and that's sort of like the memories that I have. But maybe that's because I'm on the opposite side of that, Whereas if you go as a home brewer, then it's just like, oh God, I gotta navigate through all this stuff. But
so wait, JP, hold up here. You were just saying that you enjoyed the social aspect of something. That doesn't sound right to me.
Well, I enjoy the social aspect of talking to. Not even of talking, of looking at booths. So if you can call that social, I guess. To me, that's social. Being social is being in a public space looking at shit. It's not necessarily.
But you might hold up your badge and smile, but not say anything, and then walk away. Okay.
No, just looking.
And that was JP, and he didn't even say hi to us. JP from the Brewing Network just came by, and he blew us off. Man, that guy's a jerk.
You know what? Honestly, I think about that maybe too much, because I'm sort of a narcissist. But I don't say hi to people. I don't see. I don't know, because I always feel like, maybe they don't recognize me, or maybe it's too pompous of me to assume that this person knows who I am, but they're looking at me. It's a whole thing, man. So I just avoid everybody, and I hopefully then if everybody knows up front that I'm a disappointment, seeing them across the room and they go, oh, that's JP, he blew me off, that's par for the course. But then
my first experience with JP was along those lines. I thought you were a little standoffish, and but also at the same time, like, I was excited because my friend Alex had just won the Boston Beer Company's big, the competition, what was
Long
it called?
shot.
Oh, the big Sam Adams
long shot.
Yeah.
The long shot. Yeah.
I remember that. That's been like 15 years ago.
And he got his beer made by them, and you got to go out and do that. But you were like, man, he should have declared as Doe's. Why did he declare as Mad Zymergists? I was just like, God, this JP guy is kind of a douchebag. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's kind of, just like, oh, can't you just be happy for the guy that won? Nope. He was just had like a grumpy old man syndrome. I'm just, I love you, brother. I'm giving you shit.
No. Hey, I don't mind, because honestly, it's, happiness on the radio is not as nearly as entertaining as some balding asshole being upset for no reason.
That's why we're perfect for radio.
That's the way it goes, man. But anyway, we have Brian Mills with us here with his Schwarzbier. Brian, welcome back.
Thank you.
We're drinking your Schwarzbier. I think Brian Cooper went first for your Märzen. That was on the last show. So we're going to have Brian Schar take it away with the Schwarzbier. Well, that doesn't sound right.
No.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right.
That's... You said that, JP, not me.
Sorry about that.
We'll just sit down and walk away from that. Brian, what are you in a homebrew club?
I am. I'm in the Lebanon area fermenters in central Pennsylvania.
Oh, you're still in that club, man? That's cool.
Yeah, same club as like half an hour ago.
We were just talking about that. I mean, but these are independent episodes, so maybe someone is pulling this one up and they didn't just listen to the previous episodes. So
maybe.
You don't know.
Maybe.
You could add a lot more words to your club's name, and you could be Laffy Taffy. Like, just add another F word, another Y word, and
I mean, we are close to Hershey. I don't know if that's one of their products offhand, but
I don't think so. Maybe it's a stretch. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I really like this Schwarzbier. This is one of my favorite styles. I really like this, and I'm fortunate that a couple of members of my homebrew club really do a nice job with this. So it's always I generally get a chance to have this style frequently, and I really like this beer. Aroma had kind of a low aroma overall, which is fine. This is not a beer. This is a Schwarzbier. It's not a Doppelbock. It's not a big aroma that's gonna blow your nose off your face. It had an appropriate level of aroma. Had kind of a low bready bread crust, kind of dark bread, almost rye, but not quite rye. I mean, I didn't get any rye in this, but it's a rich aroma in that way. Low roast, again, I think it's an appropriate amount of roast malt, not something that's going to blow your nose up with roast, which is appropriate. A low roast in a Schwarzbier is fine. This shouldn't smell like a stout. No hop aroma, what you expect for the style. No off aromas, gave this 9 of 12. Appearance, it's an extremely dark brown, essentially black, like it should be. As much as it's possible to tell, this is a pretty clear beer. The head was lower than I had expected, but was quite persistent at that low level. So I gave that, knocked off a point for head, gave that 2 out of 3. That could have been my own glassware, so I'll be curious what Cooper has to say about that. Flavor, initially the flavor, like the aroma, was kind of a dark bread crust, bready character. Low hop bitterness comes up to balance. Didn't really get any hop flavor in this beer, but this is not a hop showcase. This is more of a malt showcase German lager. The finish is moderate in length and dry. Well attenuated beer, and the balance is a little, between malt and hop. It's a little toward malt, which is what you'd want from this beer. 14 out of 20. Mouthfeel 5 out of 5. Medium body, medium carbonation. No warming. This is really on the creamy / astringent dial. This needle is pointing much more toward creamy. And an overall impression, I give this a 7 out of 10. It's really clean and really well fermented, which I really like. It does kind of lack the richness and complexity of the best examples. This is a 37, which is very good. So I think well done. This is a beer that I think could easily place in competition. But for something that's going to win the category, I think maybe, and I'm assuming that you're mashing, maybe a little more complexity in your malt bill might help. It may be that I simply judge this sample too cold, which could happen. Maybe if I let this warm up a little more. As we've discussed, we were going to do this show last week, and I drank the bottle and judged the bottle that I had last week. So I'm kind of coming back to my impression of this a week old. But it's possible I simply drank this too cold out of my fridge, and that maybe masked some complexity. Again, 37 out of 50. It's very good, and I really like it.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll say my part about this beer.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were setting up for the show that didn't happen and failed. And we were trying to do all these, it's so frustrating these days, like having everything be online. And in a way, there's some good things. You can play house party with your friends from across the way, and they're bored too. But play trivia games and have beers together with people from wherever. But at the same time, when the technology doesn't work, it's. Anyway, that night was technology not working, and I was sitting there trying to finish judging the Schwarzbier. So I might not have done this beer justice, but I feel that I have an impression of it still in my head. And in the nose, I got an appropriately low malt. It wasn't sharp or biting. It just low dark bread. I got some faint chocolate and a hint of roast, but not burnt. So that's okay. The chocolate was maybe a little high for what I was expecting, but it was just in the mix. It was mostly dark bread with a little bit of chocolate and a hint of roast. So low spicy hop, no big esters, and no diacetyl or acetaldehyde. It did seem cleanly lagered, and gave it a 9 out of 12 for aroma. It smelled like it was going in the right direction. Appearance-wise, rich dark brown color with a medium tan colored head of fine bubbles. Stuck around fairly well. The clarity was hard to detect, but it seemed fairly clear at the edges of the glass if you tipped and looked at the corners. Flavor-wise, I got a low dark bread and lightly chocolatey malt. Again, not burnt. The bitterness was low and out of the way, and a little hint of a spicy hop in there. Nothing overpowering. Clean lager character, but it had that semi-sweet finish. It was just a bit too sweet for the style to me. And mine had been sitting in a bag. I did the last one in the office, like I said, and it was in a bag. It came out to my work and then sat in a 100-degree car during the day in a cooler full of ice packs. And amazingly, it was still cold, but it wasn't probably as cold as the one that Char judged. So I think maybe that sweetness was just coming out a little bit more for me. And to me, I'd like it to kind of dry off in the finish a little bit at least, and then have a semi-dry to dry finish. It's to me, it should do that, but and let that. To me, part of the key to the style is having it dry off your tongue, and then you just taste a little bit of that dark malt, but not roasty, rich, burnt, and you just get that hint of that flavoring dark malt in there that gives the beer its color and a little bit of flavor, but not too much flavor. Like, to me, I'm kind of picky about Schwarzbiers, and that they have to kind of thread that needle and just drill it through this little tight speck of a, there is room for interpretation. And Schwarzes, they vary, but the finest ones to me have that drier finish. Body wise, it was medium to almost medium full bodied, maybe kind of from the sweetness accenting, but sweetness isn't body necessarily, but it was a little more viscous than I thought it should be. With a medium low carbonation, no warmth, not very creamy, but no astringency. I guess, it was probably leaning towards creamy. There was no astringency. It was smooth, but it just felt a bit big for the style to me. So I'm going to say you probably used a high temperature mash. Maybe you used melanoid and malt. I don't know. I'll suspend my judgment on the melanoid and malt.
There you go.
But I think you probably mashed a little high on the beer and did that same thing that you do with your lagers. And you need to just rethink your lagers and dry them out a little bit better. and it's going to be a better product because your ingredients are nice, the recipe is nice. It's a good beer. It's a very good beer. I gave it a 33. I think it has some room for improvement, but you could definitely bring it up to high 30s or 40s with little adjustments. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm at.
Okay.
Sorry, Sharks. Yeah.
Well, Mills, why don't you go ahead and give us your recipe, and we'll start there.
Sure. So this was my first shot at a Schwarzbier, and kind of like you said, it was a little bit of a challenge. I made a couple lagers before, and this is a kind of a unique style, so I tried to go a little bit on the simpler side to start this one off. I used about 51% of Munich Light and 41% of Munich Dark. There is about 5% of Carafa 1 and 2.5% of dehusked Carafa 2.
Interesting.
On the hop side, it was just 28 IBUs of Magnum at 60 minutes. As far as the mash goes, it was a little bit on the higher side at 155. So yeah, I could probably bring that down a little bit to help dry it out some.
Yeah, that's kind of a balanced. You get some sweetness, but you get some. But yeah, once you get up to 156, 157, the sweetness starts to take over. So I wouldn't go any higher.
Yeah. The starting gravity is 1055, and this particular batch finished at 1018, which was a little bit higher than expected. It should have been down closer to 1010-ish.
Yeah.
So I think if I can get it down there, it might improve that some.
Yeah, 1011, 1012 would be a good finish for this. 1010 would be fine, but 1018 is a bit high. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, and you just single infusion and the same kind of water treatment as we talked about on our last show with you.
Yeah, this one I actually started with all RO water and built it up from there. That was my first attempt at doing that too. Like I said on the last show, I typically mix, but for this one, I felt like challenging myself a little bit more and starting with just RO water and building it.
Yeah. Well, you did a good job because if you use too many minerals, it can start getting chalky and playing with the malt and doing some awful things. So I don't remember the water being a distraction at all. It wasn't minerally.
Yeah. The salts are pretty light in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to avoid making a beer that's like you're licking a rock. And that's what some of the over-adjusted water beers come across like to me. It's like you grab a rock and you're just licking that and just wondering why you're doing that.
Yeah.
Why am I licking this rock?
A fresh, like a Kostritzer Schwarzbier, like a decent bottle of that, well cared for, or any of the other commercial examples. Or have you been to Germany?
I have not been to Germany. And I mean, I've had a couple Schwarzbiers, but nothing like that I would consider, something in the classic style.
Yeah. They're hard to come by here, at least. I think when I've been to Germany, I've been more to southern Germany, and this is like from Saxony kind of area. It's not like you kind of have to be going there to get this beer, I think. But I would really like to go to that part of Germany and try a fresh, from the source Schwarz, because most of my impression of what a good Schwarzbier is from really good homebrewed examples that meet the style guidelines and kind of come across with that right balance that I want. But yeah, again, nice job here. It's a good beer, but drying it out a little bit more would be great. What yeast did you use?
This one is the 3470 again.
Okay, yeah.
That's pretty much my standard. And, like the other one, like pretty much all my lagers are done at 49 degrees until they get close to done and, ramp it up for the diacetyl rest at the end and then start cold crashing it. I typically don't use any gelatin or anything to clear them up at the end. I just let the temperature do it, and it seems to be working fairly well.
Cool.
Yeah, you really don't. I think you really don't need to worry about gelatin fining a dark beer like this. And it's Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just lazy or something, but in my opinion, when I generally don't gelatin fine unless I'm doing something like a Pilsner where you want it to be, absolutely crystal clear. And it's that pale color, but you can tell if it's crystal clear. But gelatin fining is how I got taught to do fining. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. As long as you're not using, Jello blue raspberry or something, you're pretty much fine with gelatin fining.
Blue raspberry Schwarzbier.
Exactly.
That sounds disgusting. Don't do it.
That's right.
My daughter loves anything blue raspberry, but she's like 12, so she wouldn't like a blue raspberry Schwarzbier. Maybe in 10 years, who knows?
Right. But she'd love a blue raspberry Laffy Taffy or Airhead. I don't know.
Back to the Laffy Taffy.
That's right. That's right.
But as far as the malt bill goes, anything that you guys think there, or anything that you might change?
You might bring in some Pils malt just to lighten up the body a little bit more.
Okay.
You're going all Munich, and the malts you use are great, but lightening up that body a little bit the body felt a little big to me. I think just because all that Munich in there.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah, and I think when Cooper says some, my thinking is maybe you might go 10-20%. I mean, Brian, what do you think about that? You think you should go higher?
I don't know. 10 or 15% would be a good place to start with this. I don't think it's just a minor adjustment.
I mean, even
Munich
20.
Was nice.
20 takes you to be from 100% Munich malts to 80%. So that might give you maybe a little more of that Christmas, maybe a little bit more of the fermentability too, potentially.
Yeah, 15, 20 would be fine to try. Yeah, anywhere in that range. Yeah. Look at Jamil's recipe, see where he starts it at, and then just adjust from there. That's what everybody else does.
Brewing Classic
Styles, yes, available everywhere. Fine home brewing books are sold.
That's right. All right, Brian, you have anything else for the boys? For the council?
No.
Okay.
No, the cool. Council of Brian's. It's the upgraded version of the Council of Elrond.
That's right.
I don't know if I'd say
like the Council of Ricks. Have you ever watched Rick and Morty? I've just started watching that for the first time when I get to the Council of Ricks, and that's kind of where that came from.
That's true.
Wow. You really are a dork, aren't you, Brian?
Yeah. Well, I guess, is that addressed to me or Mills?
Right.
Both, I guess. I mean,
I love Lord of the Rings and Star Wars. I just finished watching the Star Wars trilogy with my 7-year-old. I waited till he was the right age to watch all these movies. We watched the original trilogy from the 70s and early 80s. Now,
good.
He's got lightsabers. He's been photobombing my wife's work Zoom calls with full Darth Vader regalia coming in the background, just looming there.
That's right.
And I let it happen. I love it. Yeah.
Meanwhile,
we didn't tell my daughter about the prequels until years after we saw the original trilogy. And after we had seen pretty much all of the Clone Wars. And then I'm like, all right, maybe I can handle Jar Jar for a little bit. Let me tell you about the prequels. And she was so excited.
But wait, there's more.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
It's like the year 2020. But wait, there's more.
All right, Mills, we'll let you go, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, boys. Have a good night.
Bye.
Peace.
Thanks for sharing your beer, man. Nice talking to you.
You too.
All right, that was good stuff, huh? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think he's brewing some fine lagers, and I wish I could brew lagers that well sometimes.
That's true.
When I did my first lager, it's like you don't realize how hard it is to do a really good lager until you try to do one.
It's
I
tough.
haven't made that many because it's a challenge.
Yeah, well, and you know what? Sometimes I feel like getting people on the show that send us multiple beers, even this close together, right? Because we just had him on the last show. There is sort of a common thread between these two lagers, the Märzen and the Schwarzbier, where there's a creaminess. There's not a sharp. There's not a sharp thing. It's like everything just sort of blends, and there is a creaminess. So, is that a function of a recipe, or what he's dealing with his yeast, or both? And that's the kind of stuff I really want to dig into. Also, is not just here's a one-off recipe, but your brewing techniques in general, right? Like how can we improve those? And the only way we can know that is if we're tasting your beers, close together like that too. So that I think that's kind of fun.
Yeah, we get into exploring kind of Brian's house style, and he does a lot of things kind of similarly, his water and his yeast and his fermentation profiles. And
because everybody had these problems. I mean, I love to poke fun at Mike McDowell at Tasty McD, because when he was coming into More Beer and bringing us his beers, his house flavor was bubblegum. That bubblegum stressed yeast kind of thing. And it's like, and I was still learning to homebrew at the time. We all kind of were learning how to homebrew together, which is sort of like this weird, Olin, was the pioneer of opening More Beer and all the stuff that More Beer has done for the homebrewing community, which is probably too numerous to mention right now, honestly. But we're all still kind of figuring everything out. And so it was almost like, oh man, I can totally tell you have a house flavor. Is when I learned that term, house flavor. And I thought it was a compliment. And it wasn't a compliment, because it was an off flavor. But so everybody struggles and everybody learns from other people. And so the homebrew community is very supportive in that regard. So I don't know. It's cool to see. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break, everybody. We're going to come back and we're going to drink a Saison. And I'm not gonna taste it because I don't have it, but I will be drinking something else. Don't worry. Anyway, stay tuned. We'll be right back with Mark and his Saison. This is Dr. Homebrew.
Dr. Homebrew, please report to the ER for code blue. Dr. Homebrew to the ER, please. No, and your tea time has been moved to 2:30.
All right, thanks for sticking with us, everybody. We have Mark on the line who brewed a Saison, and I don't have any of it, and I'm a little disappointed. But that's before I've heard the score. Maybe I'll be glad. Mark, how you doing, man?
Doing really well, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, yeah. I appreciate you sending the boys some beer. I know it's a little complicated right now, but you did it, and we're going to try to give you the best feedback that we can. And I say we, I mean them, because I'm just going to sit here and cut my nails or something. I don't know. I don't have the beer to drink. But before we get to your beer, man, I do want to talk about Duke Cannon. The fellows over at Duke Cannon have a new product out. Actually, it's a whole line of high viscosity body wash called Thick. And it's really good. I have it. I personally use it. It's a great product. It is very, very thick. You can buy one for $9, and it's going to take you a long time to get through it, trust me. Or you can buy all four for $30. So they have a line of four. It's Accomplishment, Naval Supremacy, Old Glory, or Productivity, and they're really nice and bright and refreshing scents. A lot of these personal grooming products and these body washes, whatever, can sort of be a lot like beer, where it can be cloying and sort of dark smelling and just kind of like blah flavors or aromas rather. But Duke Cannon, their flavors are very bright and clear, and it's very obvious of what you're washing with. So they're really good stuff. It foams really well. I really like it. Thick, high viscosity body wash. Go to dukecannon.com and use promo code BREWING to take 15% off your entire order. And if you have an order over $35, it's free shipping. So not only do they have body wash, but you've heard us talk about it before. They have soaps, they have solid cologne, they have all sorts of stuff like that. So check it out. Trust me, go there, dukecannon.com. You're going to be buying more than just the thick body wash, I promise you. And then use promo code BREWING for 15% off of that order. All right, Mark, thanks a lot, man. Is this your first Saison that you've ever made?
Oh, no. This is first time brewing this particular recipe, but okay. I get down on the Saison style pretty hard. So,
okay.
Yeah, man.
Okay, yeah, I like asking that because it sort of, I don't know, maybe it clouds the judgment a little bit, but, these are all prejudged beforehand, but I just like to know what people are trying to tackle first, or sort of get a sense for somebody's, go-to style. And I think it's funny that it still runs the gamut of different styles. There's not many Saison heads out there anymore.
Yeah,
and there used to be.
It's definitely one of those styles where it's people were pretty hyped on them a number of years ago, but
yeah, like in the late 90s, it was Saisons everywhere.
Yeah, I dig it. And, for me, for brewing for a while, this was a fun recipe to brew because I've been kegging for a long time, and I just, I was like, I got to get a bottle conditioned Saison in the works here for some competition. So,
why not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bring it back.
Cool. Well, Brian Cooper, why don't you start us off with the Saison?
Well, yeah. And did we ask Mark how long he's been brewing?
No, we have not. I apologize, but you can go ahead.
I would be curious about that. Just how long you been working at it?
I've been nerding out on homebrew for a good decade now.
Good for you. So I'm going to taste the bottle I opened earlier, and Brian hinted at maybe some bottle variation. So I got the second bottle out, and this one is probably going to be a little warmer. And then I'm going to open the other bottle. They should be close to the same. I was going to ask, should I roll the bottle? They're pouring pretty clear. I will say that. They're pouring pretty clear. Let's see if this one pours as clear as the last one. Not that it needs to be super hazy, but it's and there's a little bit of, of haze in there. So nose wise, and the bottle had a nice fill level, good, a nice hiss. And in the nose, I'm getting a pleasant kind of apricot-like fruitiness up front with a whiff of, it's just kind of generally juicy. And this one maybe has a little more of the kind of lemony fruit in it, kind of esters. I think in the first one I got a little whiff of sulfur, but this one I'm not getting that as much. I don't know. There might be a little bottle variation going on here. And this one is actually also a little more fluffier head and more carbonated. So a low bready grainy malt, very low phenolics, just a faint bit of pepper. It's maybe a little more noticeable in this one too. And a low spicy hop, no diacetyl. Appearance-wise, it's very light. It's I don't even know if I would go light gold as opposed to yellow. It's very light in color for a Saison. Has a very finely formed white head of mostly finer bubbles that sticks around well. So even though it's on the lighter side, I give it full points for appearance. It's a pretty beer, and it doesn't need to be any hazier necessarily. A lot of them are more in that kind of golden color range, but this is okay. Flavor wise, it's pleasantly malty with a juice like. Here I'm getting I feel like I got a little almost kind of tropical-y flavors like a guava and a little pineapple alongside that apricot and a little lemon. It's like there's an interesting kind of light fruit punch bowl aspect to it. It's got a lot of different things going on, but seems cleanly fermented. Again, very low phenolics in the flavor, just a light whiff of some white pepper, and low bitterness. I would say probably low for the style. And I would prefer the esters to kind of lean a little more toward the orangey, lemony side of things than they do. But it's interesting. This expression is interesting as it is. One thing that I will say about the beer is it finishes appropriately dry, not sweet at all. And, this is good. It's definitely drying right off the tongue. And the light pepperiness that is there comes through. If you had any sweetness there, I think it would kind of block that flavor. And the aroma is light too on the phenolic side of things. But that is definitely one of the nice things about this beer. It just dries right out, and it's got a low spicy hop kind of in the background there. I would say the balances to the malt, and usually these will be balanced to the malt and a little bit also the yeast character. To me, the yeast character in this beer is generally kind of low. Whereas Saisons will be a little bit higher. This is declared as a super strength Saison. I'm getting a little alcohol. The alcohol that I get is pretty smooth. It's nice and clean, and so it's not even that noticeable. It might be a deceptive beer, so I'd be really interested to find out from you what the ABV is on this. I'm going to get to talking about your recipe and what it came out as. The beer is light bodied and it's actually pretty refreshing. Doesn't feel heavy at all. medium carbonation. This one is probably higher. It's medium high carbonation. Just doesn't have any bite or astringency at all, and that's kind of nice. Some of the saisons in Belgium or in France, you can get some with a little more bite and a little bigger phenolic and a little astringency to them. They can get a little gnarly sometimes, but then you have some that are just really smooth, like this one is. It's very smooth, and I think maybe I think in the first sample I had, a little more spritziness would have helped that. But this one, it does have that a little bit more carbonation, making it kind of pop. And it's hard to get from bottle to bottle, getting the carbonation exactly even in a beer for competition. You never know which beer the judges are going to open. I'd be interested to know what you're bottling with, if it's a beer gun or if you're just using a picnic tap in the, out of a Cobra, whatever. But there's a lot of different ways to bottle, and if you can get in the bottle and have it be fairly consistent, that's going to help you as an entrant. Overall impression, I'd say it's a pleasant drinking saison with a really interesting ester presentation. A lot of different fruits there, and I find it to be really enjoyable as far as that goes. And the phenols are low, the pepperiness is just kind of low and out of the way. The CO2 is kind of not quite up to that high, big, persistent, fluffy, pushing out all kinds of CO2. And that might be part of what lends this beer its kind of smoothness that it has, despite the fairly, it's not like super warming in the mouthfeel either, but it's like there's some alcohol there. It's not a lightweight as a super saison, but it's a very pleasant and clean drinking and fun beer in its own right. So, I would try, if you want to get it closer to what a judge wants in saison, you want it a little more phenolic. So you could try playing with your yeasts, perhaps kind of goof around with fermentation temps, maybe, stress the yeast a little bit, but you don't want to go too crazy because it's gonna also peter out if you don't do it right, and then it won't attenuate properly. Phenolic, saison yeast is notoriously finicky. But wow, yeah, it's really smooth for a super saison. I really enjoy it, and I gave it just because to me the balance could have been improved a little bit. It's a very good beer. I kind of landed at 35 on this one. I think to get it to 40s, you want a little more carbonation, a little more of the phenolic, and you want the fruits to be a little more kind of orangey lemony instead of the interesting tropical flavors that are coming in sideways at me. But I mean, that said, it's a really enjoyable beer for what it is. And I think it's smooth drinking and fun. Like it might be almost like a new version or new twist on the style somehow. Cause I don't know, you're doing something interesting here. I'm really, really curious about your recipe, but I'll let Brian say what he has to say about it too.
All right, Shar, go for it.
All right. Yeah, I really like this beer also. There was a nice authoritative hiss upon opening, which you don't always get from homebrew. I'll be curious if you bottle condition this or fill it from a keg. Aroma, get kind of a medium spicy hop aroma, medium high Belgian yeast fermentation character, a medium Pils malt aroma, very, very aromatic. I really enjoyed how this beer smelled. No off aromas, so 10 out of 12 for aroma. Appearance, it's extremely pale. I mean, this thing up like a Pilsner, and you can see how crystal clear this is. I mean, you can there's light and other stuff going on here, but you can almost see through this. It's almost too clear for this style, and I'm not going to knock it for that. But it's got sort of a low, persistent head. When this is a style that really ought to have a really big, persistent head. So I did knock at one point for kind of a few things not being quite to style, but from a standpoint of do I like it or not, I really like it.
Well, this bottle, my second bottle, is doing this. Like the first bottle didn't do this, and I think you said your first bottle was a little different from your second bottle too.
My second bottle did that more than the first bottle.
What is that? You guys gotta be a little descriptive.
It's creeping up in the neck there. Sorry for you. Yeah. Okay. For all of you who aren't watching on video, it's like
right.
Yeah, the bubbles are just creeping up in the neck. We're on this Zoom call
here looking at each other. It's not creeping up so much that I would worry about infection.
No, not like to that extent, but it's flavor.
But it's just kind of fascinating. Flavor, initially I get some Pils malt, kind of a low to medium level, and kind of what I think of as a Belgian yeast / fermentation character up front. Also, that Belgian yeast fermentation character is kind of a spicy phenol. It's a little peppery. It's not limited to being peppery. It's very distinctive. And if you like Belgian beer, you know what had Belgian beer, you know what I'm referring to. Mid palate, still no hop flavor, but hop bitterness comes up to kind of dominate in mid palate. I think this is kind of a pretty bitter beer to me. End up with that hop bitterness dominates through a long finish. It's very well attenuated, which is great. 14 out of 20. Mouthfeel 5 of 5. Low body because of the really high attenuation of this beer. High carbonation, effervescent, which is something that you rarely encounter in homebrew. Low carbonation is kind of an endemic issue with homebrew, regardless of how you package it. And the fact that it's effervescent is really pretty amazing. More perky than astringent or creamy. And when I think of perky, I think more of something that is highly carbonated and lively without having an astringent character, or without being, creamy sort of implies that it's not very carbonated and that it's more of a smooth mouthfeel. But I think of this more perky than anything. 5 out of 5. Overall impression, I gave this an 8 for a total score of 39. I really like this beer. It nails the dry finish, which is critical for a Saison. That's one of the things in the guidelines. A Saison needs to have a dry finish. But it's, in a way, it's almost so dry and so well attenuated that some of the flavor kind of gets lost. Sometimes when a beer gets so well attenuated, you have a sip and it's got great flavor, and then it just kind of slips away almost immediately. And this beer might almost be to that end. I'm curious about what yeast you use. Maybe a slightly different yeast. I'm curious if this was one of those Kvike yeasts that's so popular now. But I want to hear all about your recipe and your process and how you came up with this. But yeah, give us a 39. It's excellent. And I plan to finish this bottle this evening, whether it's during the show or after.
So yeah, I think you're getting more bitterness than I did there, Mr. Brian Shar. More bitterness, and I agree. My second sample was more carbonated and fluffy. I think we're kind of drinking the same thing now.
Actually, my second one is a little less carbonated, and I think the effervescence and the carbonic bite amplifies what I think of as hop bitterness.
Okay, yeah, that could be.
Because this second one, yeah, I mean, I have both of my bottles kind of have that little bit of additional bubbling in them, but the first one is maybe a little more effervescent, which is what this was not quite. This sample is not quite coming off as bitter as the first one.
Okay, I agree. The one that's more effervescent comes off more to style, and the bitterness is a little more accented in it.
Yeah, interesting. Well, Mark, let's start with your recipe, man. If you have that in front of you, and then we can sort of get to get into the weeds, if you will.
Sure. Yeah. So, like I said at the beginning of the call here, I had brewed this beer in anticipation of our annual competition that was coming up. So, just really trying to fill the pipeline. So, this beer was in an 11-gallon batch, and honestly, it was designed around a clone of a local brewery here, Grimm Brothers. They have the style's called Kotzbusser. Their beer Snowdrop. So the base recipe was built around that. So I shot for an 11-gallon batch. So you guys nailed it with the Pilsner malt. 11-gallon batch, 20 pounds of Pilsner malt. That was coming from, we've got a local maltster here in Loveland, Colorado. It's Root Shoot Malting. So it's their Odyssey Pilsner malt. So that's pretty rad.
Yeah, artisan malt. Nice.
Yeah, man. And then use their white wheat. So come in with 3 pounds of white wheat. And then true to form with that Kotzbüsser style, it has about 1.5 pounds of flaked oats. So not typical in a Saison necessarily, but it's in this beer.
Interesting.
So shooting for about 25 IBUs, about 1/2 ounce of Apollo at 60 minutes, and then hit it with 2 ounces of Hollow Tower at 15. And then ounce of Satz at 5 minutes. And then from a yeast perspective on the Saison side, this was a blend. So I pitched 3711, the French Saison from White Yeast. And then my local homebrew shop, Elevated Fermentations, got to give them a shout out. They sometimes have some yeasts that are heading to expiration, and so I grabbed a couple vials of Brett Brooks and co-pitched that with the 3711.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I did not get any kind of sour or funk Brett Brooks out of this at all, but it's consistent with the super high attenuation of this beer.
Yeah, and 3711 will present itself like that too. Every time I've used it, it just dries it completely out. So I think that's, this beer finished at 10:02. So I think the Brett didn't even get a chance to show its face at all.
Nothing left to chew. This beer is dry AF. That's all I have to say about it.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I love 3711. That's probably my favorite Saison yeast. It's hard to manage, but man, the results are so good.
So yeah, this is like I said, I'm typically kegging everything, and having brewed Belgian styles for a while, I can't hit that carbonation level on my draft system. Let alone trying to get my beer gun to hit that in a bottle.
Yeah.
So kind of my process on this was taking it back to my original days as a home brewer and did a bottle conditioned batch. I'm sorry there was some variation there. I guess I'm not surprised by that, but I racked out of primary into a keg with bottling sugar and then bottled off my beer gun uncarbonated into bottles for bottle conditioning.
But it's nicely conditioned.
Nice.
There's a tight settling of dregs at the bottom. It's not floating up at all. It's just it dropped brightish. There's a little bit of haze, which is nice for this beer. But yeah, I'm reading about the Kottbusser too a little bit, and I know it's there's table strength and stronger, which they define as 6%. So where did this one land ABV wise?
So this, because it dried out so much, was right around 7.5%.
Yeah.
Where the other side, that ended up being like a lager pitch. It, was finished about 5 points higher. And then on that Kotzbüsser too, there's an addition of honey. The recipe per my local brewery would have added molasses, but I just did it with some honey mid fermentation.
Nice. Yeah, there's a really nice article about it on homebrewsassociation.org by Duncan Bryant about this style, and it talks about the yeast's character being cleaner and not instead of like a German, it's a wheat beer but with a cleaner yeast strain, and it's generally light alcohol, but there's stronger versions, but it drops with less of the yeast character that you would get from a Saison. So I think that this is just like a case of us not understanding the beer, but seeing that it's a wonderful to drink beer. And I'd like to learn more about this and experience some more of these.
Well, come over to my house as soon as COVID's over and let's drink some.
Yeah.
All right, man. What's your address? Give me your address and phone number.
Yeah, right now on the air. We need it right now. Let's go.
So it's considered part of the family of white beers due to the use of wheat malt and named after a town called Cottbus in Germany. So, yeah, interesting. I'm going to look out for this. This is the first Cutbusser we've gotten, I think, here.
I think so.
Mark, do you have any other questions for the boys?
I don't know. What would you guys do different if I was to rebrew that recipe?
So problem with
the bottle variation.
Yeah, the problem with beers like this is your judges aren't going to understand it until there's at least even a provisional style. And if you go on the BCP site, there are some and we've been getting some Catarina sours, and they have New England IPA as a provisional style, and I think they're a little overdue for revising the style guidelines, and maybe that's something that I'll get to help out with as a regional rep now. I don't know, but a judge is not going to understand this beer. You say enter it as a Saison, then it's like they'll kind of say some of the things we just said about it. It's like a fantastic beer, but it doesn't have all the attributes of a Saison, but it's also like really interesting the way it is. And so I think to get it, since your yeast is really attenuating, and I'm not sure what you were trying to do with the Brett, I might just omit that. But just lighten up the starting gravity a little bit and try again. If you can predictably get that kind of attenuation you did with this fermentation, just start a little lighter and go for the 6% strength Cutbusser, or maybe do two different versions of it and do a 3 and a 6 and see where they land. But
dude, it's COVID times, man. I'm trying to get drunk.
Yeah. No, I agree with Brian that like taking the Brett Brooks out would be. It's not adding anything, and that Brooks is going to give you some funk or some sourness, and I didn't really get any of that in this beer. And what it may have done is cause it to attenuate a little bit too much. Having said that, you got some effervescence probably from the Brooks, right? Because that's going to keep chewing through your fermentables. Having said that, you might want to look for bottle bombs in a couple of months if you still have some of this that hasn't been drank.
Mm-hmm. And again, what were the hops that you used? Did you mention that already? Sorry.
Yeah, just bittered with a little touch of Apollo, and then some Hallertauer at 15, and then Satz at 5.
Okay. Yeah, I got a little spice there. Yeah, you want to use noble hops in the finish on this beer. So yeah, sure. Did you lager it?
Well, at this point, this beer was brewed in like November, probably in the bottle sometime in December. So at this point, yeah, it's just been lagering real well in the bottle.
Yeah. Cold conditioning in the bottle. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. And so this beer actually, took second overall in best of show at our homebrew comp here in Northern Colorado. And picked up by Bricks Brewing over in Greeley for GABF, if GABF competition even happens. So, pretty stoked about that, man.
Were you able to enter it as you had to enter it as a Saison since there's no style for this beer? Yeah. Yep,
I did.
As a super Saison. Yeah. Well, it's really clean and it's really fantastic. I appreciate it for what it is, but it's lighter than it should be. And like, I forget nitpicky judges that don't realize okay, that this beer has a fantastic balance to it for what it is. And it may not have all the, the phenolics and some of the bottles didn't have the effervescence that we wanted. It's still a fantastic beer in its own right. And I think that maybe they just got just the right bottle and they're like, wow, this is cool. So, I'm sorry. Maybe I should have scored it a little higher.
You can bring it up if you want.
Yeah. I would say that when I score the first bottle, I would bring it up a little bit with the second one. So maybe go to a 37 or so.
Mark, don't worry about it. You're not going to win anything anyway. So
it's all good. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. And if you have any more beer, you know where to reach us.
You know I will.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Coming on.
Cheers, Mark. Thank you.
Take care.
All right, man. Bye.
Yeah, I'll finish this one too.
There you go.
Yes.
All right, I think we have to take another break. Right, Brian?
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Let's take a fast break. We're going to come back. We're going to wrap things up here. It's Dr. Homebrew. We'll be right back.
Hello, fellow BNers. This is Sully from the 21st Amendment Brewery located in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park. Before Nico and I opened the 21A and before I was a professional brewer, I homebrewed on my small 4-burner apartment stove in a back house in Santa Monica, California, making my extract brews before graduating to the daunting idea of all-grain brewing. Homebrew books and information was hard to come by back then. The internet hadn't been invented yet, along with other things we take for granted today, like electricity and potable water. One thing I wish I had back then when I was learning was a radio show that could teach me the ins and outs of brewing and answer questions that I had about homebrewing, a resource for making great craft beer. The 21st Amendment Brewery is excited to be a proud sponsor of Dr. Homebrew, a great show that teaches you what you need to know about making incredible beer. Good stuff. Listen up, you might learn something. I certainly did. And thanks for your support. Tasty Crack Games.
The leader in affordable, high-quality kegerators is here. Introducing Komos, the kegerator designed with serious beer drinkers in mind. It features an all-stainless steel draft tower, a major upgrade over traditional chrome-plated brass towers, and Komos keeps your new tower cold with their air-cooled tower fan, wrapping your beer lines in frigid coolness. Your beer is poured from innovative forward-sealing faucets that don't leak, so they stay cleaner for longer. Dual gas inlets on the rear of the fridge allow you to run both CO2 and nitrogen gas. Serve your beer with CO2, serve your kegged wine, or even cocktails with nitrogen. The digital temperature display has the largest range available, allowing you to use the Komos kegerator for fermentation if you need to. And now Komos kegerators ship with duo-tight draft fittings for that click-to-connect assembly we've all dreamed of. Buy direct from KomosDraft.com and receive free shipping on your order. That's KOMOS Draft.com.
Ma'am, I'll need to take your top off for this examination.
Oh, doctor.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for not fleeing at the sound of us taking another break. We really appreciate it because we want to tell you about the Lawnmower 3.0 from Manscaped.com. Look, let me tell you something. If your balls are hairy, and I know they are, or even, look, let's be honest. It's not even just about the balls, okay? It's Manscaped, but women have hair underneath the belly button and lower too, okay?
What?
Yes, I know.
Are you serious?
This is what happens. So it's not only just about the balls, but it is the bathing suit area. Let's call it the bathing suit area because maybe you're Greek and maybe you have hair that comes all the way up the underside. I'm not saying I do because I'm half Greek, but if you are full Greek, maybe this is the problem for you. So it's not just about that. It's personal grooming, and it's the Lawnmower 3.0, which is available for purchase right now. It's the third generation Manscaped trimmer, which has a ceramic blade to prevent accidents. So if everybody's delicate down there, you're not going to cut yourself, you're not going to nick yourself. We sort of focus on the ball sack because we are men, and that's with the equipment that we're given. And that's the most thing that's the thing that's most prone to being nicked, right? But anyway, I don't want to get too graphic, but go to my YouTube channel where I will no, I'm just kidding. I don't know. Anyway, it's a premium battery. It will last up to 90 minutes on a single charge, so you can take a quick shave and then just put it down. You don't have to worry about putting it back on the charger. You don't need to do that. It also has an LED light and a 7,000 RPM motor, which is very, very quiet, so you can groom and not disrupt anybody. It's not a pull start weed whacker like some of these things you can get. You know what I mean? So go to manscaped.com, get 20% off plus free shipping, guys and ladies, with promo code BREWING. Manscaped.com, 20% off, free shipping. Your bathing suit area will thank you.
I can manscape right here on Zoom for you guys, 2.0. If viewers want to check this shit out,
that's right.
I can just go in the bathroom and I'll be back in like a minute, and I'll just stand here and I can manscape away if that would be helpful.
Sure,
for our live read.
That would be great. I would give me time to get my magnifying glass. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
Well, look, Brian and Brian, thank you very much, you guys. I really appreciate it. If anybody listening wants to send their beer in, email brian@thebrewingnetwork.com. Either, we'll have you shipped to both Brians, or maybe you'll ship to one of the Brians, and then they can sort of jaunt around the Bay Area dropping off beers to us. Either way, we're going to get you on, even if it's one Brian or both Brians, or, hey, even all three of us. We're going to make it happen for you. Yeah, so that would be great. Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com. We need beers to keep the show going. That's just kind of how this thing works. So check it out. If you want to listen to more great beer radio, well, look no further than the Brewing Network. We have The Session. We have Brew Strong. We have Dr. Homebrew. We have old episodes of, what's that stupid distilling show that Warren and I did?
Heads and Tails.
Heads and Tails.
I legitimately forgot about it.
I love that show.
What about the Sour Hour?
Yeah, sure. There's that too.
And Lunch Meat.
Yeah, sure.
If you want to hear Moscow's soundboard, the Sour Hour is the show for you.
Yeah, no, I'm all right with that. Justin sent me an email the other day that the Heads and Tails was trending on Australian Apple Podcasts. It was ranked. It ranked number 173 on the food section in Australia iTunes, which I think is great.
It's the apocalypse times.
I mean, you go, JP.
Who isn't distilling right now?
Well, and those things are like out of 200, so we're like, all right, that's cool. But anyway, so check that out. That was a fun show. I wish we could do that again. But anyway, there's a whole lot to listen to on the Brewing Network. Take this time, learn how to become a BJCP judge. If you want to as well. That would be really great. We need more good judges, and only good judges listen to this show.
Seriously, if you're listening to this show and you care enough about beer to improve it, to think about it, to get into this level of detail with us, if you're not a BJCP judge, you really ought to take the exam.
What are you waiting for?
And you know what, Cooper? Yeah. Maybe a thing we ought to think about doing maybe for the next show or a few shows coming up, just have maybe a short segment about maybe you're not in a homebrew club or not near other homebrewers, but you want to be a judge. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Yep, that'd be good.
Well, yeah. I was just talking to, there was another of the new reps from Israel. And I'm spacing his name right now, but he wants to do a set of online classes. And I've been talking also here locally with some other judges that want to do some online beer judging classes. And the nice thing is, like, you don't have to be in a room with people doing a class. We can just get our best instructors to do the beer judging instruction, do a 10 or 11 or 12-week class about all these different topics that we cover in this. And if you can hang in there with that, you can become a beer judge if you know a little bit about styles.
Yeah, that'd be great. Sounds cool.
Yeah, so it's Omer Basha. He just got elected for the one of the new regions. He's in Israel, and he's seems like a really smart guy, and he knows a lot about IT. We'll be working together with him, trying to make some improvements to the beer judge program. Now that I'm representing the West region. And I'm excited about it.
Love it.
It's going to be a good time. I mean, we have some challenges right now, obviously, but hopefully it's going to be a good time for the judging community. And homebrewing is taking off again, and I love it, man.
That's right. All right,
I really love how it's taking off internationally, where we have BJCP reps from Israel. And we got, like, Grandmaster judges in Argentina. And I think it's just really cool.
It is.
Yep.
It's good stuff. All right, we're going to get out of here, everybody. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks a lot to the Bryans for joining me. I appreciate it. Thank you to everybody listening to the show. And then until next time, we will see you at the judging table. Huh?
What's wrong? No, wait, wrong show?
Yeah, wrong show.
Send us some beer.